Hi, I'm Jackie Hayes, and you're listening to Here's What I Learned. On this podcast, we pull back the curtain on the ins and outs of running a coaching business. Join me as I talk with life and business coaches about the behind the scenes of running a coaching business. Sit back, take notes, and enjoy.
It forced me to have that tough conversation with myself of really, when am I available? When do I want to do different types of tasks? When do I want to be coaching? When am I best at coaching? Versus when do I want to be doing other parts of my business?
Today's episode is with leadership coach Jen Milnes. Jen is an ICF-certified leadership coach. She was called to coaching after 15 years as a leader in global corporate retail companies. She believes we are all leaders, both in our own lives and in influencing those around us. Let's welcome Jen to the show. Thank you so much for being with me today, Jen. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business?
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm Jen Milnes, and I'm a leadership coach, and I coach ambitious women that are going through transitions in their lives and really want to create the career and life of their dreams. And perhaps they have a promotion, or they're stepping into a larger leadership role, or taking on a new job, or some type of personal transition, and really looking for support through that change. I love helping people make change that can feel really big and overwhelming, feel more manageable through small steps. So I work one-on-one with clients. I also do small group coaching and do larger group coaching, so team coaching or workshops for companies. I love helping create cultures that can be more inclusive and people can be their authentic selves at work.
That sounds wonderful. How did you even start with coaching?
Yeah, so before I became a full-time coach, I worked in corporate retail for over 15 years. And during that time, I loved my career there. I was in strategy and operations and analytics work within supply chain. And there was a lot of change, always new challenges. It was wonderful. But after 15 years, I started to realize that I was being called in a different direction. And I realized that my favorite part of my job was leading my team and helping people develop into their best selves. And so for me, I left my corporate job. I really didn't know exactly what was next, but I knew something different was calling me. And I was taking classes in human resources. And one of the classes was about coaching. And that's where I sort of had my eyes opened of, wow, this is a full-time profession, and this is something I could do. And I started reaching out to colleagues in my network, talking to other coaches. And I remember having a conversation with my old boss where she said, "You would be a great coach." And it was funny because I was just deciding which program to sign up for. So that was my path, from a corporate leader to really realizing, okay, I wanted to move more into supporting people in personal development. And then I worked to get certified as a coach through the Coactive School and opened up my own business.
You worked in strategy and things along those lines in corporate. What lessons did you learn there that you now apply to your coaching business?
I'd say, I think thinking both long-term, like the big view, and in the small details. So I'd say there are a lot of the planning aspects of strategy work play into now running my own business, is thinking about what I need to do today, but also looking into the longer term. I think another big part of strategy is who you want to work with and how to make things happen. So I would say figuring out who I want to, who I can connect with, who can support me, or who I can support. That feels really important and helpful with my business.
Do you have an example of that, where you want to go, how you have created that kind of a strategy for yourself and your business?
Yeah, so I think I feel really passionate about helping women in these corporate roles stay in the jobs they love or figure out what's next. But I know for me, that was something. I left a job at the time that I loved and, wish I had had more support. So I say one area a couple of things that I do strategically to support women in that area is through the co-working space in my town called the Coco. There's different peer groups. So I'm a mentor for a peer group, and it's really supporting those women and creating a community and opportunity for those women to connect and talk about those issues that they're experiencing. So I'd say that's one avenue. I also partner with a company called the Mom Project, and I'm a mentor through them, and it's helping mentor other women go through sort of those corporate positions. So I'd say building connections with these organizations that I feel passionate about helps to me, create some of that community I want to see the change happen for women leaders.
I was just going to ask you about those organizations, because I know that a lot of your coaching is done through organizations and in partnership with other organizations. How did you go about finding the right fit organizations? What would you suggest to other coaches if that's a route they want to go? And what are some of the pros and cons with that?
Yeah, I would say figuring out what the values are of those organizations and if they match well with my values. So, for example, the Mom Project, they're very focused on supporting moms in the workforce. And I know for myself, becoming a mom when I had my, first kid and then subsequently second kid, I couldn't keep working at the same rate and just amount of work that I was doing before becoming a mom, and just balancing those realities of feeling the mom guilt and the work guilt. So I really appreciate that the company's values are aligned with mine, and their mission is something that I really can get behind. So I would say when deciding who to partner with, making sure the values are there and connecting with people in the organization, again, to make sure that the values aren't just being put on the website, but that they're really living their values and you feel really good about it.
Okay. And then, so what has been some of the benefits of working with an organization?
Yeah, so I would say, for those two that I mentioned, the Mom Project and the Coco, those are volunteer positions that I have, and that has helped, I think, expand my network and, working with people all around the country that I wouldn't have worked with otherwise or wouldn't have met otherwise. And then some of the companies that I work for from a paid perspective and building those connections, I'd say the benefits have, again, just been diversity of clients. So one of the companies I coach for as a contractor, I coach people, in Spain, working in the recruiting industry or other industries that I wouldn't have typically connected with. My 15 plus years was in retail. And so it's great to be able to connect with people at different stages of their career journeys in different parts of the country, in different industries. So definitely that diversity has been wonderful to get by partnering with these other companies.
Okay. And what has been maybe some of the costs or downfalls to working with them?
I would say some of the costs is always having to follow someone else's structure. If I'm running my business and following how I want to coach or how I want to do a process, I have more flexibility with my own business, but I'm working with some of the other companies, following their protocols. So you may be coaching for 30 minutes instead of 60 minutes. And again, different types of sessions can produce different types of results. So I think it's just, that's that downside is, shifting to match their protocols.
Okay. When it comes to running a coaching business, what has been your biggest win since you started, and how did you celebrate that win?
So I'd say my biggest win is when a happy client refers me to a friend of theirs or another organization. So I think that moment, so for example, one company was really happy with a talk that I gave to their organization, and they referred me to another company. And that made me do my happy dance. And so for me, celebrating is a happy dance, especially with my kids, two young kids. So we dance around the kitchen, and I try to share that celebration moment with them. And I love that you ask about celebrating, because that's something that I find a lot of my clients and myself don't do as often as we should. I think as a recovering perfectionist and high achiever, I used to just achieve the goal and move on. But I think for me, it's really about that pausing moment and celebrating. So I'd say definitely celebrating after I get those referrals. Because for me, that makes me feel like my clients have been so happy with the results that I gave, either for the one-on-one clients or groups, that they're willing to refer me to someone else.
And what has been one of your biggest challenges and how have you overcome it?
I would say one of my biggest challenges, so one big challenge has been from a technical side, all the like systems and technical parts of running a business. Coming from a corporate background, the organization, the company had that all figured out. They gave us the email system, you log on, it was sort of all set up and ready to go. Running my own business, there's a multitude of tools that I use, from creating my website to creating my scheduling to creating my payment system, and figuring out which technology, which company to go with and how to get that all set up has been a big challenge for me. And I'm not afraid of technology, at least I didn't think I was until kickstarting my business and trying to figure out, okay, what's the best technology, and really balancing what will work effectively for running my business with the costs. And I think as a business owner, there's not only like what my business looks like now, but where I want it to grow to be. So there's definitely, again, that like strategic vision of, okay, well, this might work now, but will it work later? And trying to decide, is that okay if it doesn't work later, or just thinking through that. So I'd say the technology side has been a big challenge that I've been working through in running my own business.
I think you bring up a good point that a lot of people just don't even think about, because when you're working for a company, corporates, or even a nonprofit, they have their systems already in place.
Mm-hmm.
They have people who have set up your email for you. So
Mm-hmm.
day one, you just walk in, you log into Outlook or whatever it happens to be, and you're all set, ready to go. And this is what we use to manage projects, and this is our billing system, and all of that. And also, you don't have to worry about the billing system because it's not part
Mm-hmm.
of your job. All of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start your business, all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I need to figure out how to bill my clients. Oh, wait a minute, now I have to figure out how am I going to schedule my clients. And you can start out the simple route of, just emailing back and forth. But once you get going and you get a lot of clients, after a while, you're like, that doesn't work because, I'm trying to schedule all these, consults, but I can't give, I'm free this time, but I got to block those times and not give those away to somebody else until I hear back, and it becomes very complicated. So I think your point of thinking ahead, what works now isn't necessarily going to work in a year, 5 years, and if you can get started sooner with maybe the lower end of a program, say, a project management tool or a scheduler, so that you have it in place, so you're not like scrambling to figure out how you're going to solve a problem that you knew was going to come. Your fingers crossed kind of a situation. So, how do you, when you're looking at a new piece of tech or tool, what are you looking at to decide whether or not it works for you?
Yeah, so I think for me right now, I want a tool to be intuitive. So I don't want to spend a lot of time training on a tool. So I know, I don't know if you want me to get into specifics, but like one of the tools, it was, trying to figure out, okay, well, is this really going to work? And again, not wanting to spend my time in training. Our time is our most precious commodity, and I want something that will work quickly and solve. But I also find I sometimes need to put on my experimenter's hat and try something out, see if it works. And then if it doesn't, be willing to move on. But I think, before starting off with the tool, really thinking about, okay, well, what do I want this tool to solve? And if it is billing, okay, trying to, and I'm a big planner. So writing out my requirements before I start digging in of, okay, I want it to solve these 3 bullet points. Does it solve these 3 bullet points? And then as I make that assessment, figuring out, okay, well, if it's not solving everything, what is it solving, and what are the trade-offs I'm making? So thinking through those pros and cons.
I think that's a good idea to sit down and say, okay, this is exactly what I need it to do. These are, these are the 3 things or the 5 things. Um, and if it can't do those things, is this really actually the best tool for me to invest my time and my money? And I think we have a tendency to get a little overwhelmed with all the features that something might offer, and then completely forget that, it only covered one of my 3 things, so maybe this isn't going to be the best choice.
Yeah. And I would say, to add on to that, it's also, again, as a recovering perfectionist, I also have tried to teach myself in this process not to get so stuck on that of like, it has to solve everything, or it needs to be the perfect tool. I think I started out with one calendar system. I used it for the first year and a half and then switched to a different calendar system. And that's fine. And it's part of the journey. So I think just try not to get too caught up in making sure it's the perfect tool, or, it's going to solve everything, because it might not, and that's okay.
Yeah, there's not going to be one thing that is absolutely perfect. So when it comes to choosing a piece of software or tech for your company, what would you say have been the types that have been most beneficial for you? So for instance, you have project management tools, you have client relationship management software, you have scheduling, you have, invoicing. What types of tools have you found to be most invaluable when it comes to running your business?
Yeah, so I would say one main tool has been my email system. So meaning sending out newsletters. So a system to capture clients' emails or potential clients' emails, or just people that attend different workshops or are interested in the work that I'm doing, and using that email system to be able to connect with them. So I think for me, community is so important. And I also love writing. So being able to write content that's both interesting, helpful, and hopefully somewhat educational and inspiring has been a key tool. So I'd say the email newsletter system has been really helpful. I'd say another tool that's been really helpful is my scheduling system. So having a way for clients and potential clients to schedule time with me one-on-one has been really helpful to help take that out of the equation. I think it also, a tool like that also created some boundaries for me, which as a business owner can be really helpful in the beginning, if I'm willing to say yes to meeting with anyone at any time, just based on my eagerness. But a tool and a system can almost act as a boundary to say, okay, no, really, it forced me to have that tough conversation with myself of really, when am I available? When do I want to do different types of tasks? When do I want to be coaching? When am I best at coaching? Just following my energy of the day, versus when do I want to be doing other parts of my business? So I would say my calendar system for people to set up appointments with me has been sort of that second key tool for running my business.
Tell me a little bit more about boundaries and what you have learned in the time that you have been coaching, from when you first started to now. What has that transformation been like when it comes to learning your boundaries, establishing your boundaries, etc.?
Yeah, I think boundaries have been a learning journey for sure. And there's all different types of boundaries. So I know that one that we were just talking about was related to my time. And again, wanting to, part of me is, I want to deliver great service to people. So there's a little bit of a people pleaser that I've been working through inside of me. And so being willing to meet with anyone whenever it's best for them was something in the beginning, that I would meet with them nights, weekends, mornings, any time of day. And I think over time realized, I'm not at my best at certain times of coaching. And just realizing, well, when is my energy in place to be the best coach that I can be? So I'm really present for the person. And so I think creating I think some of that's just experimentation, right? So for me, on the journey of my business and evolution of my business, was realizing that was, okay, wow, this doesn't feel like I have the best energy flow right now. So let me make a change for the future. So I'd say how I spend my time has been a certain boundary and like when I'm willing to do certain tasks. I'd say another boundary I've worked on is from a physical boundary perspective in terms of where I coach or where I do my work. This is a job I do, with the pandemic, but also without the pandemic, do it remotely, and I work from home. So I used to be pre-pandemic, I was set up with my office downstairs while my kids were at school, and it wasn't a problem. But then with the pandemic, when they were home all the time, I realized that they would just, they would be running up and asking me questions all day long. And I realized I needed a physical boundary. So I needed to physically move my office somewhere where I had more privacy. And not only for clients, because that's extremely important, but also just so that my kids don't interrupt me and creating that physical boundary.
So you're talking a little bit about the managing of your time and when you have the best energy for coaching versus other activities in your business. So can you tell me a little bit about what your week kind of looks like? Do you block, like, I don't do coaching on Mondays, or I do admin stuff on Tuesdays? What does that look like?
Yeah. And I've experimented with it a lot of different ways to figure out what worked for me. And what's working right now is I do time blocks. So that's sort of a way to answer that question right away. So I do big time blocks on my calendar. So for me, Monday mornings is my time. I don't coach with clients. I use that as a time to start the week off. For me personally, I have a yoga class I go to that I love that helps sort of set the tone for the week. And I meet with my coach on Monday mornings. So I sort of do my personal internal work and I create my priorities for the week and my strategy for the week. So I start off Monday morning is blocked for me time. And then Monday afternoons and evenings, I coach clients. And again, I had to make that tough decision of evenings. Do I want to work evenings? And for me, it's important, yes, to work one evening a week because I do coach clients in time zones on the West Coast. And I know that I'm in the East Coast time zone, so want to be available for people later hours one night a week. So I do block Monday nights, and that's been helpful again with my family. They know Monday nights I'm working. My husband takes care of the kids. Everybody sort of knows the routine. And then Tuesday, I do block some time for creative time. So there's, a half a day where I'm not taking clients, where for me, that's where I'm working on writing my newsletter or, doing inspirational things that tap into my creative side. And then as I get later in the week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday tend to be more when I meet with clients and really trying to block some of those times to ensure I'm available for clients later in the week.
There is something that I have learned or discovered working with coaches is that they see certain activities as part of their business or business development that I think people outside of coaching or in corporate would never even consider, like the time they spend with their coach. Or you mentioned your yoga class. Well, that is actually benefits your business. So yes, you can consider that part of your business week or your business hours because it helps you set your week up. So as opposed to it being something you plug in whenever you can, no, that's part of your Monday routine.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely been a part of my learning journey in running my business. But if I'm not at my best and I'm not taking care of myself, I can't give to my clients in the best way possible. So making sure I'm exercising every day, that I'm doing my meditations every day, or I'm doing what I need to feel replenished so that I can give to others. And I find it not only applies to me as a coach, but me as a mom, me as a wife, me as a community volunteer, all of those things is really taking care of ourselves to be able to do those other things we want to do. So it has been a shift for me, for sure. In my old corporate job, I wouldn't have thought of going to the gym as so important to my business, or having lunch with, some key contacts, or, attending a learning session. But I do attend different workshops and to learn and what are some new tools. And I love it because I'm a lifelong learner, and that's an important value of mine. And that is part of my work is learning about these new research that's coming out or new tools. And all of that learning that I'm absorbing I love to connect and use to help support my clients.
I know that one of the ways that you replenish yourself is to take what you call the pause, and
Mm-hmm.
that comes from your work in mental fitness. Can you tell us a little bit about what mental fitness is and then how you apply some of the techniques to running your business?
Yeah. So mental fitness is really being able to shift your thoughts from a negative space to a more positive or productive space. And I studied this work with Shirzad Chamine on his program called Positive Intelligence. And really, the basis of it is how we can recognize different parts of ourselves. One big example, and I can share more about, is the judge. So, just how we each have this inner judge. All humans have this voice within us that starts to get louder and louder and tell us certain things, such as you're not good enough, or, this presentation you're giving isn't good enough, or you don't have the right credentials to apply for that job, or who do you think you are? Whatever this voice is saying to us, recognizing what that judging voice is. And it's not just that judging voice, but then the framework also has other ways of creating self-awareness. And through that self-awareness, helps us recognize when we're in a state of fear or a state of negativity, and how we can work with our bodies, work with our minds to really shift to a more productive place. So if we think of old times when people were hunting and gathering, if a bear was going to jump out at us, we needed our bodies to be ready for that moment. And that sense of fear was helpful. But you want to shift past it. You don't want to stay in that sense of fear for a long time. And I know, with the pandemic or other events going on in the world, a lot of us can sit in that state of fear or uncertainty or nervousness or any of those negative emotions for a long time. And what I love about the program is it's not saying that it's bad to feel those negative feelings. It's okay to feel afraid. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel sad. And it's really accepting that it's okay to feel the full range of emotions, but they are indicators that something should shift. So an analogy that he uses is your hand on a hot stove. So if you put your hand on a hot stove, and you start to feel that it's hot, you don't want to leave your hand there for very long because you will get burned. But if you sense that heat and you take it off, then you can shift into making whatever changes you need to make or taking the action that you need to take. So mental fitness is, using that analogy, it's feeling your hand on the hot fire, feeling that negative emotion or that fear, and being able to move past it so that you can really tap into your, and I call it your inner leader, but really that inner voice, that wisdom, that intuition, whatever you want to call it, that is really authentically you, that can help you make decisions and help you make choices on the life that you want to lead, so that you're not following what grandma says you should do, or society says you should do, or your boss, necessarily says you have to do, but really connecting to what's important for you. And the pause becomes so important because it's recognizing that. It's that self-awareness. It's that moment of recognizing, okay, I'm in judgment mode right now. Or again, for me, how I self-sabotage is perfectionist mode. Okay, I'm in perfectionist mode right now. So being able to pause and breathe. And as I talk about it, it just makes me want to breathe and get grounded, and really using physical touch or sight or using our senses to get really grounded so that we can shift to that more positive, productive state.
So I know that the judge is also often called your saboteur, and there's different versions of saboteurs. And I took the assessment, and I have to say, I was like, wow, I sabotage myself a lot. In multiple different ways. What are some ways that the judge or the saboteur has shown up for you, and maybe some of your clients? And what does that look like when you're running your business? If the saboteur is being active and you were listening to the saboteur, what might that look like?
Yeah. So that word saboteur is part of the framework to how we identify these different ways we sabotage ourselves. So for me, one of my saboteurs is sort of that, it's called the stickler, but it really has to do with the perfectionism in me. So that stickler really wants to make sure everything is perfect and the best and everything is amazing before I, do the work or send it out, I should say. So for me, how that shows up in my business, one very, obvious example for me is my newsletter. So when I'm writing my newsletter, I'm editing my newsletter, my saboteur just starts getting really loud. It starts telling me that this, newsletter article I've written is not good enough. I don't have enough research. I don't have enough links. People won't like it. I want to make sure I'm inclusive. So I want to make sure I'm including everyone. And I want to make sure just all those voices are coming up telling me that it's not good enough and I need to keep working on it. And if I listened to that stickler, I would never send a newsletter or I would never post content online or I would never share my voice because it's always second guessing and trying to refine and make it better. And again, the premise behind the mental fitness framework is it's not a bad thing, right? That stickler has helped me succeed immensely in life. And there are many ways that it has helped me survive and thrive in my past. However, now at this point, running my business, it is getting in the way. So it's really recognizing that saboteur and working with it, not trying to ban it, not trying to say this part of me will ever go away, but just recognizing it, labeling that the stickler is there and the stickler is trying to get in my way. This way I can recognize, okay, this is the stickler talking. This isn't me, like how I want to be going forward. So I need to work through that.
It reminds me a lot of what I'm fairly certain it was Elizabeth Gilbert talked about in Big Magic about fear and about, thanking your fear for being there. Yes, it has a role, it's important, and it can be beneficial at times, but you're sitting in the back seat and you're not driving. You're not going to be a backseat driver. You're just going to enjoy the ride. You're there, as opposed to trying to squash the fear constantly, because then it just seems to make it stronger. And that there seems to be very similar there.
Yeah, it's definitely, and with clients, I think we talk about that a lot. It's not that you're trying to get rid of this part of you, it's part of you. And again, for a lot of us, it's helped us in our lives, but not letting it hold us back from whatever the goal is that we're trying to achieve now. Another example of my saboteur is the avoider. And I didn't realize I had an avoider until I'm running my own business. And I realized there's certain tasks I wanted to avoid. And as I start to, again, like with the program, helped me get really curious about what am I avoiding? Why am I avoiding it? And for me, it was, some of those tasks in my business that were new and things that were really uncomfortable. I had done my job at my corporate role for so long. I knew how to do it in and out. So running my own business, I ran into a lot of new things and that felt uncomfortable. So I would avoid certain tasks. So again, getting more familiar with increasing that self-awareness helped me identify the avoider saboteur and know when it was showing up in my business so that I don't let it hold me back from growing in the way that I want to grow.
I have both avoider and the stickler, and they're really good partners because
they're great partners.
Yeah, because I avoid because I'm not good at something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I laugh a lot though because I will go out bowling and I don't remember the last time I bowled over like 117. So obviously I'm not good at bowling, but I still love to go do it. And I'm like, this is the only thing in my life that I'm like, I suck at this, but let's go do it. Like, why can't everything that I do? It's not, I don't like doing this because I'm not very good at it. I'm like, I just need to have the same perspective as I do with bowling.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And I love with coaching, right? It helps you connect to that. Okay. If bowling is a helpful perspective for you, how do you apply the bowling perspective to other things in your life? That's great.
I guess gross shoes and sticky floors is what I need. I don't know. So I know that you actually have a mental fitness group coaching program. Can you tell me a little bit about what that container looks like?
Yeah. So the way I run my mental fitness program is it's an 8-week program and it's small groups. So usually, 5 or less people in a group, and we meet for 8 weeks in a row, once a week. And there's content that everybody watches. So there's a video that talks about some of those mental fitness principles that we talked about, like the judge or your saboteurs or the tools to work through some of those fears. And so you watch the videos. There's an app that goes along with the program. So people download the app on their phones and they're able to get different challenges every day. And the premise behind the program is, like going to the gym. You can't just show up at the gym one day a month and expect that you're going to be strong and fit. It takes daily practice, or if not daily, most days, but regular practice, showing up and putting in some work. And so the app prompts the person throughout the day with different challenges. And it really does help instill that pause that we were talking about throughout the day. So it includes different 2-minute breaks throughout the day to just pause. And I love this because most clients at first are like, I don't have time for that. And if you really think about it, it's, and I remember myself being this way, running from meeting to meeting, back to back, never going to the bathroom, carrying my lunch from meeting to meeting, went back in when I was in an office. But being able to take 2 minutes out of the day, is really important for our bodies, really important for our mental state. So the app that's included in the program helps create that practice of taking 2-minute pauses throughout the day. And it's tied to challenges around the content. So people that are in the program have the videos, they have the app, and then we meet once a week in the group setting to dive into the content, make it feel really relevant for each person and apply it to each person's lives. So, for example, one client last year, was really feeling imposter syndrome when they signed up for the program. And it was really how to work through that imposter syndrome. And through the group sessions, it's just magical. As I think about those group sessions, because people realize that they're not alone, is one really big thing. Is, wow, I didn't realize I had imposter syndrome and you have imposter syndrome and all 5 of us have imposter syndrome. And oh my goodness, all of us think we're not good enough, but you're amazing and you're amazing. And I just love that support of people coming together, helping each other as we discuss the framework and using the framework as a launching pad to really help people make those shifts in their lives. So throughout the 8 weeks, it really is those daily practices with the app, and really observing how we behave and how we can shift in our lives. And I've seen the program help, myself and my clients, not just in your work, for me, my coaching business, but also in relationships. It's improved communication with my husband, or how I interact with my kids, becoming such a better listener rather than telling them what to do. So really how it's shifted several different facets of my life and my clients' lives.
And I know that you're going to be kicking off that program at the end of the month, but so this episode is releasing on the 15th. You have some live Q&As about the program and about mental fitness coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I am hosting 2 live Q&As to help answer questions about the mental fitness program and, what the logistics of the program, but also the framework and how it can help people in their lives. So the first session is happening on Friday, March 18th at 11 a.m. Eastern. And then the second Q&A is happening on Monday, March 21st at 8 p.m. Eastern. And if people want to sign up, there's links on my website to sign up. And those Q&As will hopefully help people understand the framework a little bit better, whatever is on top of people's minds. And then I'm launching the next group on April 4th, I believe is the Monday.
Yep.
So coming up in about a month.
Okay. Now, I got so excited to start talking with you that I forgot my rapid fire questions.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Starting with, I will conclude our episode with that. So, very first question is, what one movie do you stop and watch whenever it's on TV? It doesn't matter how many times you have seen it. If it's on, you're gonna watch it.
I am a romantic comedy junkie. So there's, just these romantic comedies that just halt me. The one that I've been watching not religiously, but lately, when, like you said, when I see it come on or on Netflix when I don't know what to watch, is The Holiday. I see you laughing. But I think I love that idea of, going. So I love traveling. So I think I love the fact that they swap houses and they're experiencing these different cultures and just different houses. And I like that idea.
It's funny because one of my closest friends loves that movie and has been recommending it for years, and I'm like, I don't know.
Mhm.
And then this winter, I was like, nope, we're gonna watch it. And I was like, why have I not watched this before? Although the practical side of me at the end was like, but wait a minute, they live on separate continents. How's this gonna work? But I'm like, that's not what romantic comedies are supposed to be about.
Yes. Mhm.
So, but that was a good one. I really enjoyed that one. All right, question number 2. If you were to audition for The Voice, what would be your audition song?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. What would it be for The Voice, my audition song? I mean, one funny story I can remember of singing is my brother and I, when we were kids, we did Summer Lovin' from Grease. I remember loving the movie Grease. That was one of the songs I knew. And I was probably in high school or middle school. I don't remember, but it was with my family and we were at a restaurant that I guess had karaoke. So that's the song that comes to mind. Not that it has any special meaning, but I guess that brought up that memory of my brother and I singing karaoke in Summer Lovin'.
Grease is like the perfect karaoke, source of music. And it's funny, whenever I ask this question, you can immediately tell who are singers and who are not.
Yeah,
Because I'm not a singer either, and I'm like, I don't even remember the title of the song. It's Journey, Glee had it all over everything. But yeah, Grease would be my another source. My last question is, what is one thought that is currently challenging you right now that you are working to shift?
So one thing I'm working on is definitely around that idea of our strengths can sometimes be our weaknesses. And again, I know it relates to some of our saboteur work that we were talking about, but the big thing for me that I've always been awarded for, and my bosses in corporate always were so proud of me, is my resourcefulness. And being resourceful is wonderful. It's been so helpful in my business. But that flip side is the shadow side of it is that I get burnt out. I work myself to exhaustion. And I'm so resourceful and I'll always make it work and I'll say yes and I'll figure it out. But at some point, you need to say no. So I think just really I'm working around that thought right now of, okay, well, when is it okay to say no? When is it okay to give up? Or, not think of it as necessarily giving up because that's hard for me, but shifting gears and really that idea around resourcefulness and how at times in my past it has caused me to become exhausted.
Resourceful is obviously one of my strengths as well. I mean, the whole field that I am in kind of requires that. But I don't know about you. You said you were praised for it a lot, and I have family members and colleagues and such that have praised me and then recommended, oh, she can figure out that problem that you have. And then it's always been a struggle if I go to help somebody that, they were referred to me to solve their problem, and I'm like, I can't figure this one out. And it's really been a growth area for me to be like, it's okay for me to be able to say to somebody, I can't figure this out, or this is outside my wheelhouse. I know that so and so, was talking me up, but they didn't realize that I didn't know that particular piece of software or something along those lines. So,
yeah, exactly.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being with me. Can you tell us where everybody can find you?
Sure, yeah. So my website is jenmilnes.com. And on that website, there's ways to either book a session with me, book an informational get to know each other if that's helpful. And you could sign up for my newsletter on the website also. So that's www.jenmilnes.com.
Great. Thank you so much again for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Jackie.
Thanks for listening to Here's What I Learned. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. ta-ta for now.